how watching my dad slice bologna change and transform my life forever. McLean.coach. You can subscribe to my free daily videos like this. I shoot them on my broken iPhone 7, and I shoot a video every day that arrives in your righteous email box at 6 a.m. every day. Consider it your mental kick in the pants if you're into such a thing. McLean.coach, daily email videos. So I grew up the first 5 years of my life. The most important 5 years in your life is the first 5, you know that. Your character is literally set in the first 3 to 5 years. It's hard to make changes after that. You can do it, but it's difficult. And your character is almost set in stone in those first 5 years. So when I say my daily prayer first thing in the morning to my Creator, one of the things I include most days is I thank God that I was born in the back of a general store. I am so grateful that the first 5 formative years of my life were spent watching my mom and dad, who are both 90 years old now, doing very well. The first 0 to 5 years of my life watching my mom raise my sister and I in the back of the store. It was attached to the store. We lived those first 5 years in a little village of 70 people. We didn't even live in a town, we lived in a village. And watching my dad having the privilege of the example of my mom's hard work, my dad's hard work, and watching my dad, good morning, every single day, get up at 6 in the morning, shower, shave, and walk out our home door, which was the door to the general store, and walk in there at 5 to 7 in the morning. And then he would come in at 9 p.m. every night and close the door, and that was his day for 5 years. If you do like math like I do, strong men tremble, but 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. every day but Christmas is 14 hours. 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12 months a year, every day but Christmas. And my dad was able to do it because he had a plan. He knew that he was willing to put in those types of hours to build up his family, to support his 2 children at the time, to support my mom, and my mom was in the back doing the real heavy lifting, raising my sister and myself at the time. So you want to talk about all in. Living in the back of a general store and watching your mom and dad work like that sure changes a child's mindset in terms of autonomy, personal sovereignty, work ethic. But one of my favorite all-time stories from the general store is if I had my bath on a Monday night or a Sunday night, or if it was a special day, before bedtime, my mom would let my sister and I go out into the store. We had rules. My dad didn't want kids running around the store. It wasn't like that at all. So one of our big special treats was we'd get to go see our dad out in the store before bed. And sometimes, not very often, we might even be able to get something. Like we weren't middle class at the time, and we weren't white collar. We didn't want for anything, but let me tell you, money was tight. And I can just imagine back in the 70s what my dad was bringing home. It was just enough so that my mom could stay at home with us kids. But boy, oh boy, we were as blue collar as you can get. And I'm certainly grateful for that blue collar experience in those first 5 years. One of the stories that sticks with me to this day, and I believe it's been with me for 55 years. I went out in the store one time with my mom, and here's my dad on the meat slicer behind the counter. And we lived in a village of 70 people and lots of surrounding homes. And I mean, lower to middle class at best. A lot of great people that struggled financially. We used to have people come in to get gasoline, and they would put $2 in the car or $1 in the car just to make it through, you know, a few days. This was back in the 70s, right? My mom and dad were both born in 1933, which was the start of the Great Depression, not the recession. So my dad's always had an incredible soft spot, not sympathy. My dad has and my mom has empathy. They have empathy and compassion for people that are genuinely struggling. They're not talking about people that are lazy or sloth-like, but my mom and dad have compassion for people that are doing their best, but they're still struggling, and every day is a grind. And I saw this example, more is caught than taught, right? What could be more powerful? What could be more powerful than when you say to somebody, you're like 3 years old or 4 years old or whatever I was, and you literally go out to the general store and you see your dad slicing off slices of bologna, the cheapest meat that my dad would sell in the store. And there was this lady at the counter, and she had, my dad's told me, looking back, she had 5 kids, husband and 5 kids. And he's slicing the bologna, and literally it's like 4 inches thick, sandwich meat for the week, right? He said she would come in every week with $5, get $2 of gasoline and a loaf of white Wonder bread, and as much as she could of bologna for the 5 kids to go to school. And on this particular day, I'm standing there watching my hero slice this meat, and I'm like, this is incredible. Look at him. I love that machine. How can you do that? And then he walks up to the counter, and I'm right behind the counter with my dad. And he puts it there with the bread and this big 4-inch block of bologna. And the lady says, mark it down, Frank. Can you mark it down? And you can see where behind the counter, this lady has a pretty big tab of mark it down. In those days, he would just take the paper slip off, and then he would tape it there. And as you could see, there was about 20 different people in the community that my dad was in no position, but was subsidizing them week to week. And people were, in those days, they had honor, right? If you borrowed $5, my dad got the $5 back. He'd just have to wait. So my dad was playing banker because of his compassion and empathy for people that were really struggling. And this lady, she's sitting there and she goes, can you mark it down? And my dad says, you know, Joyce, I think her name was, he goes, I can't mark any more down. He says, as you can see, you're like a month behind. And she's like, you know, you can tell that she's just, it's like a punch in the gut, right? She's got 5 kids. She's got a husband. She's got all this pressure, all this stress, like a 2,000-pound piano on her back. And my dad, you know, she pushes the bread back, and then my dad, you know, being the guy that he is, he says, how about this, Joyce? He says, how about we consider that your Christmas present? And he pushes the 4 inches of bologna back towards her on the counter. He pushes the loaf of white Wonder bread, and he takes the slip with the gasoline and he tears it up and he throws it in the trash. And it's hard at age 4 or 5, whatever I was at the time, to understand what those types of examples and teaching moments do to a child. And it wasn't for decades later that I actually started recalling that again when I think about how it's important to not have sympathy for people, especially in 2024, but how critically important it is to have empathy, compassion for people. There's a difference. A hand up, not a hand out. We used to get off the school bus when I was in kindergarten and grade 1. We were still living at the general store. And I've shared this before. We used to have guys, there'd be a gentleman up on the roof spraying the roof or putting, you know, new shingles on the roof, or a guy painting my mom's bathrooms. And, you know, looking back, we'd say, I asked my dad about this, you know, when I was an adult, and he's like, Michael, he was just working off his bill. He didn't have the money for food, he didn't have the money for fuel, and he literally was, we'd have these guys, you know, I'm like, my dad cuts his own grass, get off the school bus, and here's somebody cutting the grass. But my dad just couldn't say no to these, I don't know, black sheep or people that just couldn't, they were doing their best, but they just couldn't win. And, you know, it wasn't like they weren't working. They were putting in the hours. They were working in dead-end jobs. They were doing what they had to do, but they just couldn't win for whatever reason. And my dad, if you believe in karma, my dad's got as much karma as anybody else. I mean, there's so many people that are now, you know, long gone from here, who he, you know, when he sold that store, I said, how many of those tabs were still going, Dad? How many of those 20 tabs, that bank you had behind him? And he said, you want to know the truth? And I said, yes. He said 20. He says most of those people, they were, you know, they weren't able to pay that lump sum. So, you know, that's what watching my my pop slice Baloney had an impact on me. And I think it's one of the reasons that no matter what I've done with my world, whether I was in the barbershop business or the hockey business or the coaching business or the book selling business, in my adult years, I've always connected charity of some sort, some service, some impact to everything I do. And I do it, it's self-serving. I do it because it makes me happy. I do it because it makes me younger. I do it because it makes me smile. It's just, you know, without service, there's no significance. Without significance, there is no legacy. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be forgotten 20 minutes after my funeral by everybody but my immediate family. I want to have something there that my kids and grandkids and great-grandkids can look back on whatever they look at then and say, man, my dad made a difference. My grandfather made a difference. My great-grandfather made a difference. So, you know, that's the stories that I tell about my dad, even though he's 90 years old and doing well. It's most of my dad's most memorable stories and greatest moments as a dad or a husband were all around serving other people with simple things as simple as holding a door, a kind word, a compliment, a smile, or free sliced bologna for Christmas. Man, oh man, just thinking about that just inspires me to do better in those areas. I said in a video this week, I said, you know, my real success financially, it started the day I stopped chasing just money. Money's important. It's a scoreboard. We're not running a soup kitchen or a non-profit here or a halfway center, halfway house. So money's important. Don't get that wrong. But the thing is like things really went well for me in business over the last 20 years when I stopped chasing money and I started chasing impact. Impact, personal freedom. I started chasing my legacy. And as soon as I did that, how can I serve other people? How can I shoot videos to serve people, write newsletters to serve people? How can I help people in the barbershop business? How can I sponsor charities through my companies? Man, oh man, I started making more money more easily than I ever did before when I started chasing freedom and impact. So, World Building 101 is building a world that you never need to vacation or escape from. That's what World Building 101 is. And what's interesting about world building is that 99% of people have no clue how to do it. Most people are slaves in their own business. They have what I call a Frankenstein business, and they're trapped in what they started. Why do most people start a business? They start a business because they say to themselves, I want to work for myself. I want to be my own boss. So the exact opposite of that is building your own badass world. My dad worked in the general store. I just mentioned that story, and he didn't make any money, but he was a badass, not a bootlicker. If he needed an hour off to take a nap, or an hour off to take us kids to school or whatever it was, he did it. Same with my grandfather. And he had a plan to get into an even freer business, which next was the life insurance business. Then he got into the insurance business, and on and on. So to me, it's not about making just money. Anybody can make a lot of money. If you're gonna sacrifice your marriage, your health, you're gonna sacrifice your mental health, you're gonna sacrifice your children, you're gonna sacrifice your grandchildren, you know what? You're gonna end up with lots of money if you put in the time. But when you look at it, how much are you making per hour when you're working 70 and 80 hours per week? To me, it's all about building that badass world that you never need to escape from. So if you need help with this in 2024, we got a brand new year right in front of us here. What do you intend to do with this year? Are you tired of working for the man? Tired of being trapped in your Frankenstein business? And if you are, you need to study and subscribe to my newsletter. It's the link is below, badassletter.com. That's my paper and ink print newsletter that I send to you, or I mail it to your home or business every single month. But in every business I've been in, including my personal life, all I've done is build worlds that I want. Not what you want, not what I want. And that's what I'm sharing, especially in this January edition. It's every January I do what's called a State of the Union. What the hell's a State of the Union? It's my 25 rules for badass world building in 2024. Nothing more, nothing loftier than that. These are the 25 rules that I have in my life in the next year that are going to lead to more freedom, more control, more independence, more personal sovereignty, and more, of what I want. And I'm writing about the 25 rules in this January edition. If you haven't subscribed, you got one more day. The link is below, badassletter.com. It's a 22 page physical newsletter. It's $97 a month. That's less than a cup of coffee a day to build the marriage, to build the marketing, to build the bank account, to build the relationships, and to build your own gated community, to build your own walled garden that you never ever need to escape or to vacation from. If you've had enough and you say, you know what, it's my life, it's my terms, it's my business, my terms, let me help you do that in the brand new year. Subscribe below, less than a cup of coffee a day, $3.24 or something. It's pocket change. It's pocket change if you're serious about building the badass world of your dreams in this new glorious year. 2 words that changed my life. Baloney changed my life too. Sliced bologna changed my life a lot. Watching my mom and dad go to work changed my life a lot. 2 other words that changed my life. Be relentless.